Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're stepping into the shadows. We're going to dissect a deeply chilling tale of rural superstition, mob mentality, and, well, dark magic. We're doing a deep dive into the legendary Ketpur tragedy. We're going to break down exactly how fear can poison an entire community and, quite literally, manifest into a rotting curse.
So the crucial point is, what turns a healer into a monster? Seriously, think about it for a second. How does a woman whose entire life was dedicated to bringing new life into the world suddenly become the architect of its destruction? That psychological and supernatural transformation is exactly what we're going to explore today. We're going to look at the anatomy of a curse piece by piece. To really understand this, we need to start right in the middle of the horror. Picture this. Imagine living in Ketpur village. For 3 grueling months, not a single drop of rain has fallen. The sky is completely choked with this thick yellow dust, and the earth is literally cracked open. But the real terror? That begins at the home of the Mukhia, the village head. Almost out of nowhere, his house is completely filled with the overwhelming, inescapable stench of rotting flesh. And it gets worse. His fields don't just dry up, they actively rot. His livestock are suddenly infested with maggots, as if they're decaying while they're still alive. This isn't just a streak of bad weather, folks. This is a highly targeted, aggressive decay. Part 1. The Catalyst, a drought of reason. To really get why this rotting curse happened, we have to look back at the tragic misunderstanding that kicked the whole thing off. And this brilliantly illustrates the tragic duality of our central figure, a woman named Savitri. You have who she was, the Vaidya Mai. She lived out on the edge of the forest, a deeply respected midwife who used herbs to pull women back from the brink of death. But then, you have what the village turned her into, the Chudail, or witch. You see, the prolonged drought had made the villagers absolutely desperate. And, desperate people, they look for scapegoats. They convinced themselves that Savitri's nighttime visits to the old forest temple had angered the local goddess, and they decided that's what brought the drought upon them. And paranoia, it moves incredibly fast. 3 months of agonizing drought really build the tension. Then, right at midnight, a woman named Rupa goes into labor. Savitri's right there, doing everything she possibly can, praying for her to survive. But tragically, Rupa dies. By 1 a.m., the grief-stricken, highly superstitious villagers storm Savitri's hut. They hear her frantic prayers and wildly accuse her of chanting dark mantras. The village head, the Mukhia, is actually the one leading the charge. By 2 a.m., all reason is just entirely gone. They burn Savitri's hut to the ground, destroying her life-saving medicines and her entire livelihood in just a matter of minutes. As she stood there, watching her life's work quite literally go up in flames, Savitri looked at the mob and delivered this incredibly chilling warning. She said, "When truth is burned, the ashes always say something." The sheer irony here is just incredible, right? By acting like a monstrous, superstitious mob, the villagers actually pushed Savitri right into the darkness. They basically forced her to become the exact evil they feared she was. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 2, Anatomy of the Dark Curse. We are going to meticulously break down exactly how Savitri struck back. Follow these steps with me. Deep in the woods, under the abandoned Kalika temple, Savitri kneels in the dirt. Her fingers, the exact same fingers that used to deliver babies, now violently tear into the dry earth to dig a miniature grave. Inside, she carefully places a small clay doll. But she binds it to the village head's wife, Lata. She wraps it in Lata's old clothing and intertwines it with strands of black hair. Around its neck, she ties a tight black thread, heavy with a single blood-red bead. And finally, she takes a piece of black coal. And she inscribes this onto the doll's chest, Tera sukh meri pyas. Your happiness is my thirst. Just take a second to really absorb that. This isn't just some round hex. This is deeply personal, meticulously crafted vengeance. She is bearing this doll to actively siphon the life force and the happiness from the village head's home, drawing it right down into the cold, dead earth. Now, what's really interesting about this manifestation is the horrific physical toll it takes on Lata, the Mukhia's wife. She doesn't just get a fever. Her symptoms actually mimic the buried doll. Her black hair starts falling out in these massive clumps. Cold, coin-sized blue-green marks embed themselves deep into her skin, almost as if invisible metal is being hammered right into her flesh. And by night, she wakes up screaming, but the voice echoing out of her throat, it's demonic. It shifts. It's like something else is completely taking over. Part 3. Unearthing the Doll. This is where sheer desperation forces the village to confront their sins head-on. The village priest, Pandit Haranath, is urgently called in. He immediately diagnoses this horrific stench and decay as Kala Jadoo. To put it simply, this is a form of dark magic, believed to awaken vengeful spirits, bind a human soul to an object, in this case that clay doll, and slowly drain their life force like a parasitic vine. The pundit gives them a grim warning. If the doll isn't unearthed before the full moon, the entire household is going to turn to ash.
So, we are back to a frantic midnight rush. The pundit, the mukhya, and 2 terrified villagers head straight into the forest. They track that foul, rotting smell directly to the old temple. The villagers frantically dig. The earth itself almost seems to scream as they tear into it. And then, a sharp clink. The spade strikes something hard. They desperately brush away the dirt, and by the flickering light of their torches, they see it. The clay doll, wrapped tightly in Lotta's clothes, with that dark coal inscription right on its chest.
The village head is absolutely desperate at this point. He actually thinks brute force can solve this, just like he thought burning Savitri's hut would solve the drought. He aggressively grabs the doll to smash it, but the exact moment he tries, the torchlight violently flickers and a voice echoes from the walls of the broken temple itself. Tumhara anth mera. Your end is mine.
The mukhya smashes the doll against the ground, but it doesn't break. Instead, the black thread around its neck snaps. The single red bead rolls away down the temple steps and just vanishes into the darkness. The pandit is absolutely horrified. He realizes the mukhya just made a fatal mistake. By breaking the binding thread, he didn't destroy the curse. Actually, scratch that. He unleashed it. He released the dark magic from the physical totem directly into their blood.
Part 4. The Final Vengeance. Let's look at the chilling morning aftermath.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because the horrifying morning conclusion reveals a terrifying mirror effect. Lanita is found dead on her bed. Her lips are blue, those coin-sized marks on her skin are deep and dark. The life has been completely, totally drained from her. And lying right next to her corpse is the clay doll. The coal inscription, "Your happiness is my thirst," is totally faded. The thirst has clearly been quenched. But the absolute most horrifying detail? The neck of the doll, right where the thread used to be, is completely burned to black ash. Lanita's fate and the doll's condition are permanently, tragically linked. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. And I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. Who was the real villain of Ketpur? Was it Savitri, the witch, who unleashed an unforgiving curse that drained the life from an innocent woman? Or was it the mob, led by the mukhya, who violently burned down a healer's life and forced her into the darkness to begin with? It's a tragic, devastating cycle of revenge, showing us that when fear replaces reason, the monsters we create might just be ourselves. Thank you so much for diving into this dark tale with me. I'll see you next time.